by at least 10.
All right, moving on to 5A. Godby travels to Revolt. I don't have much to say about this one because I know Revolt, they had an impressive win over Chattahoochee on the Panhandle. And Godby, even with their short schedule, they seem like they're still in good shape. I've got Godby by 7 over Revolt.
One thing I will point out, since you mentioned that Panhandle team, Chattahoochee, it's a shame what that program has fallen apart from because I still remember my sophomore year of high school when we were always having to battle with Ed White, and Ed White went out there to face them and lost, and they went on to the regional, state semifinals to play Armwood. And now 6 years later, they finished the season winless. It's amazing how a program like that could fall apart so fast. When it comes to the matchup though with Godby and Revolt, it doesn't seem like Revolt has the same defense that they normally have, which is usually stronger. I'll say Godby by at least 14 here.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Baker County in ranked. Baker County's been very impressive this year. I mean, they're definitely one of the top 5 best teams in the 904 area code. And I think this will be just a game that won't be as close because Reigns, they've struggled this year. They're a younger team, and I know they played pretty well against Westside, which originally I picked Westside to win that game. But I think Baker County will beat Reigns by 21.
Reigns is another program that seems to be a bit down from some of their past teams. I will give them credit. They did. It does seem like towards the last few weeks, like the Bartram game, they did start putting up a bit of a fight. The problem's been they start turning the ball over, and that's really what destroyed them in that game. If they can somehow limit the turnovers, they have a shot at pulling an upset. But just picking it straight up, I got Baker County winning this one.
Yeah, the next one we got is Suwannee at Pine Forest. Suwannee's had a very, very good season this year. This is probably like the best season they've had in a while. And who knows? Maybe eventually they'll bring back the Suwannee-Columbia rivalry back soon.
They've had a shot the last 2 years to bring it back.
Yeah, but Suwannee, I think they'll be tired from traveling out to Pensacola to go against Pine Forest, and I think Pine Forest will win by 21 over Suwannee.
Sorry, Bulldogs. You're making that long drive out to Pensacola, and you're coming back with a loss. Pine Forest by 10 here.
The next one we have, this one's kind of a weird matchup, but they're both district opponents. Pedro Menendez travels to Orange Park. And these two teams, they were kind of shocking me this year because I thought both of these teams would be a lot better than I expected. Pedro Menendez, we already know the story that Coach
Sanchez?
Coach Kenny Sanchez, he got fired after the first 2 weeks of the season, which was insane. And they had an interim coach for the rest of the year. And they just struggled really bad. They looked like they had some struggles this year. And Orange Park did. Yeah, they struggled worse than I thought they would. But I think I'm actually going to go with Pedro Menendez to win by 7 over Orange Park.
Now that I remember it, I think our last podcast, it was actually the week after he got fired there. Orange Park, you mentioned about teams getting breaking long playoff droughts. That was Orange Park's first. They got their first playoff win, I believe it was last week, since 2010. Or maybe it was the week before. But either way, still, Orange Park here at home, coming out, getting that momentum right now. I'm just not sure what is going on with Mendez, and I really lost a lot of confidence in them after they fired their coach. So I'm going to take Orange Park here.
All right. Another one, this is a big matchup. Dunellen at North Marion. Dunellen's definitely been one of the top teams further down towards Central Florida. And they are a team to be reckoned with. potential state contenders this year. I'm actually going to say, I'm going to pick Denellen by 21 over North Marion.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay with that pick as well. 21 points. It does seem North Marion's a bit down this year. They seem to pull up a couple of wins in the second half of the year to try to gain back some momentum, but Denellen's by far the better team.
Yep, and the next one we have is Port Orange Atlantic travels to Clay, and Port Orange Atlantic, they've had a very, very rough year. They have not met the expectations to what a lot of people expected out of them this year. They have struggled bad, and Clay, after the rough season they had last year, they came up finishing 7-1, I believe, because they lost I believe it was Oakley.
Yeah, regular season finale.
Yeah, and they were still very impressive this year, but I hate to say this, but no offense to Atlantic, but I got Clay by 35 over Atlantic.
Yeah, Clay's going to blow them out. Also, one other game from the area, Ridgeview at Vanguard, though I would say in this one, I'm going to take Vanguard by 28.
Yeah, Ridgeview's been turning around their program. They've been looking rough the last few years. They're trying to compete with Orange Park and Oakley, like some of those other Orange Park teams, that area. But I got Vanguard by 24 over Ridgeview. Now,
5A. There's one more game. This one, I know it's out of our area, but this one's probably going to be the game of the week statewide. Miami Northwestern at American Heritage Plantation, about two teams that are top 10 in Florida. This is a rematch from the 5A, I believe it was regional finals last year. And this will likely, in my opinion, determine who walks away with the 5A championship. American Heritage fell in a close one last year to Northwestern. I don't see that changing. I'm going to take the Bulls here to win on the road by 7.
It's a good thing you mentioned that, even though we did not cover it. But this is definitely a big game. But I think Miami Northwestern will win it by 14. I don't think American Heritage Plantation will be able to handle them this year. Now, moving on to 4A, Bulls travels to Fernandina Beach. Fernandina Beach has been very impressive this year. They are competing with Nassau County again. Because I know the last few years they've been rough. But this year, I heard they had some monsters on that team this year. And that's why they beat West Nassau and some of those teams out there. I'm actually going to go with Bulls by 21 over Fernandina Beach.
Yeah, another thing that made me wonder is when they got that playoff win last week, because even though I haven't been able to figure out how long ago it was, that had to be their first playoff win in years. But unfortunately for them, they just had the unfortunate luck that they're going to have to face the number one team by far in the 4A North in Bulls. They're at home, but I don't think it's going to help them much. Bulls probably by 24 plus in this game.
Yeah. Another one, Bradford travels to South Sumter. Bradford's still got a pretty talented team. I know their schedule, it was a little tough this year, and their record said otherwise. And South Sumter, they're a team that's been kind of strong the last few years as well. But I think I got Bradford winning by 14 over South Sumter.
Both these teams arguably had better teams last year than they do this year. South Sumter's at home. That's probably going to be the deciding factor in my opinion. I'll take South Sumter. Also, before we move into 3A, here's another big South Florida game. I would say if you're talking Miami Northwestern and American Heritage being number one game in South Florida, this is probably the number 2 one. Cardinal Gibbons versus Gulliver Prep. 2 top 25 teams arguably in the state of Florida. I like the Chiefs here to get the win.
I was actually going to say Cardinal Gibbons by 14. Gulliver Prep, I don't think we'll be able to stop that offense. Not this year. Going on to 3A, Trinity Christian at Episcopal battles some Duval County private schools. Trinity Christian, they struggled last year because they had a really tough schedule, and they did not have a good year last year. But this year, they came back pretty strong, even with the tougher schedule as well. I'm going to say Trinity Christian wins by 21 over Episcopal.
I will also, since we mentioned Trinity Christian, for one, the one thing with their schedule last year is they definitely overscheduled, kind of like Bishop Road did this year. But they're definitely a talented team. They dropped the schedule strength down a little bit, but they still came away looking very good, including beating American Heritage earlier this year. Episcopal, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to put up many points on Trinity Christian. After all, Baldwin, Baldwin still winless in the playoffs historically. I believe they're up to 0-6 now in program history.
Yeah, I believe so. And Baldwin had a really good team as well this year, so it surprised me how they got knocked out already.
I'm going to say for this one, Trinity Christian, I would say by at least 21, and I would say Episcopal probably 7 points or under in total points scored in this game.
All right. Another one, Pensacola Catholic travels to Florida High, and Florida is probably the best private school football team in the Panhandle, North Florida area. They are just very good this year. They finished undefeated 6-0 this year. They're a loaded team. They're very loaded. I think they have potential to go to state this year. I'm going to actually go with Florida over 28, by 28 over Pensacola Catholic.
That's a fair pick, and I'll say this. I'll go back to Columbia real quick. With us playing Florida High, of the three teams that I saw in person that beat us, I would actually, which was Florida High, Madison, and Lee, I would actually pick Florida High as the best of those three teams, based on what I saw, in my opinion. I'm going to take Florida. You said 28. I'll go ahead and say 35 at home.
Ooh. On the 2A now, University Christian travels to St. John Paul to Tallahassee. I think this will be a pretty good matchup between these two. University Christians, they're down a little bit, but they're still a solid team. And St. John Paul, too, has been trying to make a name for themselves in the Panhandle this year, as well as North Florida. I think it'll be a very close game. And I'm actually going to pick St. John Paul, too, by 7.
Wow. I was going to go University Christian by 10 here. Hopefully they don't let me down, but I just feel a little more confident in them. I think their playoff experience is going to help them tremendously. And setup, which in my opinion will be UC versus North Florida Christian for the battle to a North next week.
Right, and that's the next game I was just going to mention too. North Florida Educational and North Florida Christian will be playing each other tomorrow. Now, don't get these two confused. North Florida Educational is here in Jacksonville, known as NFBI, and I also saw they just built a new turf field earlier this year at a school that was actually closed down a while back on the west side of Jacks. And now they'll be playing North Florida Christian from Tallahassee, who's been a powerhouse team in this for private schools, especially in 2A. But I think North Florida Christian's going to come out with a big win by 21.
Wouldn't that have been a first North Florida Educational's first playoff win last week too?
I think it was. I'm not sure because I know the schools only existed for a few years. That might have been their first playoff win as well, but I'm not too sure. I believe you're right. I think that was their first win.
And I think it was also their first win of the season too. That's probably one reason why I'm going to say North Florida Christian by 35.
I think it was. I thought they won one game earlier this year, but I'm not sure. But they're just a private school. They're trying to build a program there, but it's just going to take a lot of time. But yeah, like we were saying, North Florida Christian's probably just going to come out a lot stronger than that. Moving on to 1A. We actually got a few games to mention because our regions build up. We got some teams in the region, that are looking good in 1A. Union County at Fort White. I really don't have much to say about this game because